Hello and welcome. This is me, Martin, and this is ELT Experiences. Thank you for joining me today. Now, I tried to do a live stream earlier today, but the technology wasn't working very well. So I decided to stop the recording and I decided to record this and release this in advance. And I think from now on, I will record something and upload it rather than streaming, because the streaming service at the moment is not as I expected. So today we're going to be looking at the IELTS, and we're going to look at the general aspects of the IELTS for English students. And as ever, if you enjoy this video, please hit the like button and hit subscribe and hit the notification bell. And I'll be happy to see you here again with a future IELTS video. Okay, so a quick background to the IELTS. The IELTS is an international English language testing system. That's the acronym, and more than 10,000 organizations trust the IELTS. Okay, it assesses candidates and potential candidates on their speaking, their listening, their reading, and their writing. And the listening, reading, and writing is quite a long process. It's like 2 hours, 40 minutes, and the speaking is between 11 and 14 minutes. So there's a lot of emphasis on this listening, reading, and writing. Now, there are two tests that you can choose. You can choose either the IELTS Academic or the IELTS General Training. Okay, and if you go for the IELTS Academic test, then you're trying to demonstrate that you're ready and suitable to study in an English-speaking environment at an English-speaking institute, higher educational institute. Whereas for the IELTS General, this is for people who are looking to relocate and move to an English-speaking country, and it's to demonstrate that they're ready and suitable to integrate in an English-speaking environment within a workplace or within social situations. So that's the background to the test. Now, the IELTS band scores, these are between 0 to 9. And 0, if you get a 0, it means you did not attend the test. And if you did attend the test, then you're going to be marked between 1 and 9. And if you want to study at an English-speaking university, then you need to try and get a 7 if you want to go to a good university, but some universities accept maybe a 6 or so. However, if you get a 5, then you have to push up, and there's a lot of preparation courses and preparation years to help students achieve to become a good user or a very good user in their English. Okay, so don't worry if you get like a 5 or a 4. If you get a 4 or a 5, you'll be looking to study maybe for a year before continuing with your university course. Whereas if you get a 6, then usually maybe a summer course will prepare students for their university studies. Okay. Now, looking next, we have the speaking test. And the speaking test, as I mentioned, is quite short compared to the other elements. It's between 11 and 14 minutes, and there are 3 parts, 3 sections. The first section is an introduction where you introduce yourself, and there's an interview, and the examiner will be asking you some basic questions. Part 2 is where you have to speak for a period of time, and part 3 is a 2-way discussion. Okay, and you're basically assessed on the ability to communicate opinions and informations and ideas, and hopefully that helps. Now, moving on, let's have a look at the listening test. And the listening test is 30 minutes in total. But you also get 10 minutes to transcribe your answers onto the answer sheet. There are 40 questions in total, and these could include multiple choice, matching, labeling, and various completion exercises. So within the listening test, there are 4 sections. And the first section looks at a conversation between 2 people in an everyday social context. Section 2 is a monologue. So someone is speaking for a period of time set in an everyday social context. Section 3 is a conversation between up to 4 people in an educational training context. And section 4 is a monologue on an academic subject, right? So it could be like a lecture or something like that. So that's the listening test. Looking at the reading test, the reading test is quite long and it's 60 minutes. There is no transcribing time, so you have to complete everything within 60 minutes. A bit like the listening test, there are 40 questions, but there are 3 sections to the reading test. The first, each section includes 1 long text, and the texts are authentic, either books, journals, articles, etc. And the text may contain diagrams or graphs or some sort of visual illustration. The writing test is 60 minutes, and there are 2 tasks that are set. In task 1, you're presented with a graph, a table, a chart, or a diagram, and you are required to describe or summarize and explain the information in your own words. And task 2, you're asked to write an essay in response to a point of view, argument, or problem. Right? And in task 1, it's around 150 words or more, and task 2 is 250 plus words. So, a couple of tips on the day before or on the day of the IELTS test. And the first thing that you need to try and achieve is to eat and sleep well before the test. If you arrive at the test and you're tired and you haven't slept well, or you've done some last minute study throughout the night, you're going to be very tired, you're not going to be focused, and there's no opportunity to have a break during the test because it's 2 hours 40 minutes for the listening, the reading and the writing. And if you're tired and unfocused, you won't do very well. Also, try and wear some comfortable clothes because you're going to be sitting down a lot during the morning or the afternoon. And if it's hot, try and wear some loose clothing. But also, if it's cold, prepare for it to be cold so that you have an extra layer to wear, like a jumper. Also bring a bottle of water with you. Yeah, you can bring a clear bottle of drinking water or refreshment to keep you not that thirsty, and also arrive early on the day of the exam. If you arrive just on time, you're going to be very flustered and you're going to be worrying where to go, what to do, and you're not going to be that calm and focused for the test. So it's very important. The next part is to try and go to the toilet before the test starts. And like I said, it's 2 hours, 40 minutes, and you can't go to the toilet or have a break in between the test. And obviously, no mobile phones. You're not allowed to take your phone with you. So phones will be handed in and they will be placed in a safe place during the test. A few more tips for the IELTS test is to bring some ID to the test centre. Usually this is passport and various other things, and your registration documents. Okay, don't forget these, because if you forget them, you won't be able to take the test. Also, during the test, listen to instructions, listen to the examiners, because they will be explaining what you need to do and what is expected Okay. Now, the next thing is there is a clock within the actual test, but you cannot take your watch with you during the test. So along with your phone, you have to hand in your watch or put your watch away. Okay. But you can refer to the clock during the test. Now, if you have a disability, inform the test center well in advance, okay, so that the test center can prepare and accommodate you during the test. And the final tip, obviously focus and remain calm throughout the test, because if you're stressed, you're worried, you're anxious, it will not help. Okay, we're going to have a look at some tips for the speaking test and a couple of things to recognize during the speaking test. Try and practice speaking English before your test, such as expressing opinions, and get all that practice going. Practice with other students. If you're studying the IELTS together, try and ask your teacher for some advice, and then try and practice, especially certain language to help you. When you're completing the speaking test, try and be confident and ready to chat. Don't be quiet, and listen to the question and answer it directly. So if the teacher asks you about hobbies, don't talk about what you did last weekend. Try and answer the question and expand upon it. Yeah. So the next point, expand your answers when speaking. So yeah, what are your hobbies? Talk about what your hobbies are and whether you are still doing your hobbies, and also talk about what sort of hobbies you fancy doing in the future. Don't just answer the single question, but try and expand upon it. Yeah. And stop speaking when the examiner is trying to stop you. Okay. The examiner will not stop you if you're expanding upon the answer, but when it comes to a particular time for the speaking to stop, then he will just stop you, and then you just stop. And obviously the next tip is try and use a variety of grammar tenses. Use conditionals, use past tenses and present perfect tenses and present simple tenses. Use a variety to show that you have the ability to communicate in a variety of tenses. With regards to the listening test, couple of things. Obviously, you could be wearing headphones. Make sure your headphones are working. If no headphones are used and you cannot hear the recording, raise your hand. And obviously, if you do use headphones and they're not working, raise your hand and get the examiner's attention. Focus on listening for the answers rather than trying to understand everything. Because if you can focus on the particular answers that you're trying to get, then this will help you answer the questions. But if you're trying to understand everything, then you're going to be overwhelmed trying to extract the answers. And you only get one chance to listen to the recording. You don't get 2 or 3 chances. Also, write your answers on the question paper during the listening test, and you will have additional time to transcribe those answers to the answer sheet. And when you're using the answer sheet, write in capital letters, the big letters, because it's more legible and understandable. Now, tips for the reading test. Read all the questions and the instructions very carefully. Don't waste time on one question and move on to the next one. Yeah? If you don't understand, don't just get bogged down and focus on that particular question for the reading. Try and move on to the next one and try and answer that. And when you have time, go back and see if you can find the question. Okay? Also, have a look at the clock in the room and notice how much time you have remaining. Because if you waste your time or if you don't focus on how much time that's left, you'll be quite surprised at how quickly the time goes. Also, write your answers on the answer sheet immediately, because you don't have time to transcribe the answers from question to answer sheet. And just like the previous advice and tips, try and write in capital letters when writing your answers. Okay. And final bit, a bit like the listening, try and find the answers rather than understanding everything you read. Yeah. It's not vital that you understand everything, but it's just important to try and focus on, extracting the answers. Now, a couple of tips for the writing test. Spend about 20 minutes on task 1 and 40 minutes on task 2. For task 1, try and write more than 150 words. And for task 2, try and write more than 250 words. Plan your essay on your question paper and organize your writing into paragraphs. If you put your writing into paragraphs, it's easier to read for the examiner and you can have a clear logic to follow. Keep all the information relevant and also include a conclusion at the end of task 2. Even if you have 5 minutes remaining, always write that conclusion. And writing more does not equate to it being better. Okay, so write in a way which is understandable and comprehensible, rather than just writing so much and expecting it will be good. Okay, 1 week before the IELTS, a couple of things. Practice past papers, try and find them. Ask your teacher, your IELTS teacher, to help you find past papers and practice taking them. And find a good tutor to help you with the IELTS, particularly at the areas where you're lacking. Okay, try and complete the whole test a few times before the day of the test. It's very important, and you can see where or what patterns you're focused on. Yeah, you may be very good at listening and reading, but your writing is not as good as what you expected it. So focus on your weaknesses rather than focusing on your strengths. And also access some online resources and websites to help you. Now, there are additional websites that you can have a look at. There's the IELTS.org website, and there's a lot of information on there that you can access. There's also the Take IELTS British Council website, and there's a lot of resources on here with regards to finding recognisable organisations and some advice for you on succeeding with the IELTS. And the final website that I would recommend is the IDP website. And this is an organisation which is created the IELTS alongside other organisations. And there's quite a lot of resources available. You can find courses, you can find countries, you can have a look at studying abroad and living abroad. There's a lot of resources on this website, so have a look at it. Okay, right. Well, that is the end of today's premiere, and thank you for joining me. Again, if you have any questions, please comment below. And also, if you enjoyed this video, hit that like button and hit subscribe and hit the notification bell, and you'll be notified when a new video is uploaded. Also, if there's any elements of the IELTS test that you want me to focus on in future IELTS videos, then please let me know and I'll be happy to accommodate any requests. As ever, enjoy and happy learning and take it easy. Bye bye.